Hello, we'll be back with Carolyn Johnston today, who will demonstrate to us what a healthy walk looks like. But first, I'd like to tell you my own story and how Carolyn has helped me become a better tango dancer and a better person in general. So about 5 months before Sean and I were to be married, I slipped and fell and ended up breaking my C2 vertebrae. It's also called a hangman's break. Fortunately, it was a hairline crack. If it had gone through, I could have been in paraplegic or, worse, dead. Okay, so for 3 months after that, I had on what's called a halo brace. So I was basically something like kind of cage, but these metal poles going the front of my back, and all I could move was my thoracic. That was it. If I had to turn around, I had to do this whole thing. Okay. So that was on me for 3 months. And when I recovered, it turned out I never quite fully recovered. Now, about a few weeks before Sean and I were married, we discovered actually tango, and for the next 7 years we studied it quite intensively. So 7 years later, by the time I met Carolyn, I was already considered what I would consider today to be a high intermittent level dancer. I had been working, with professionals as well, partnering them in workshops. I had even filmed the demo for TV on one time with one of them as a fundraising thing. Spent a whole week in Montreal with a bunch of professionals just on tango. But it wasn't until I met Carolyn Johnston that she noticed that my body would not move in this direction. I can move freely in this direction. So when I was driving, this was before we had cameras in the cars, I felt free to look through the back window, make sure that everything was clear. But when it came to this side, I preferred to use the mirrors. It was just a little bit more difficult for me. This was shortly after my recovery. And when I could drive again, that, turning this direction was a little bit more difficult. So she was the one who made me more aware of all the spinal rotation and how important it was. And years later, I've been working with her a lot, and she has helped make me a better dancer, a better teacher, and just a healthier person overall. I don't have the injuries that a lot of people my age have. And I think I owe it a lot to her. In her video, Carolyn talks about how to walk in a healthy way, and there are some things we haven't covered yet. So particular things you want to look for is how she describes how we do a weight change. Okay. Again, uses our spinal movement. And at what point we get the most of the spinal movement, and also what happens, how we get the contrabody movement that, I've talked about a lot, and she describes how we do that. Now, one of the other things you will notice is that she used the words release a lot to go into the movements or to create the walk. And that's an important concept that I haven't really talked about too much, but we talked about relaxing the muscles you can move, and really I think she's more correct when she's talking about releasing the muscle so that it can move as freely as it can. So, without further ado, here's Carolyn Johnston. So Carolyn, can you please tell us what a healthy walk looks like?
Okay. I'm going to draw an imaginary clock on the floor, clockwise, and I want to be looking down at the clock this way. Okay, that's why I'm imagining that. So I'm going to spiral the top of T12 counterclockwise, which takes my right hip back and then I'm going to transfer my weight. With that spiral, I'm going to spiral in order to transfer my weight onto my right foot, the inside of it, the inside of my leg. Then I'm going to settle onto my right leg joint and let the left hip come down, let the leg spiral in, the knee goes forward, ankles are bending, and then the toes bend. Then I'm going to go off of the right leg and spiral back even more, like this is the height of the spiral at the full extension. Then I'm going to release counterclockwise, let my leg muscles release so I'm in neutral where my knees are right next to each other. The hip is still down, but there is no washing machine there, no spiral. Now I'm going to counterclockwise spiral from the top of T12 down. That brings my left hip back and my right hip forward, and if I let my leg muscles go, my right leg will come forward. And now I'm in a big spiral, counterclockwise from my T11 down, top of T12 down from my psoas, and I'm going to release clockwise and let my knee come next to my other knee. Going to spiral clockwise, that brings my left hip back, my right hip back, my left foot forward, and left hip forward, and onto it. Release to neutral, spiral counterclockwise, left hip goes back, right hip is coming forward, I'm letting my leg come through, and take a nice long extended step, and that's it.
And are you doing anything with your upper body?
I am just releasing the muscles back here. There's a nice muscle I'll show you sometime. It's called the serratus posterior inferior, and that is going to release so that when I spiral counterclockwise to the left, putting my weight on my left leg, I'm not going to tighten these muscles and have my ribs go with it. They're going to stay released so that I can stay going forward in the direction that I want to go. If I want to turn, then I can allow the upper to turn and go to where I want to go at that time. So if I do it to the other side, I'm going to go counterclockwise with my lower and release the right side of the upper, and so that it does not go with my hip. And then I'm going to go straight forward, so my sternum is straight forward. But if I want to go to the left, then I release even more and turn my torso that way. Oh, I'd like to go over here.
So I'd like to thank Carolyn Johnston for showing us how to walk in a healthy way. Next time, we'll be putting all the individual things together, and most of this is stuff that Carolyn Johnston has taught me, and I want to share, and we both of us wanted to share with you, so that you can become the best dancer that you can be, but also not just the best dancer, but help you prevent any injuries from happening. That's it for this time. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.